Almost 90% of the Palestinian people in Gaza had to relocate, go from one place to another. I have some friends in the south of Gaza who have moved place at least 10 times.
Kondisi real di Gaza sekarang itu tidak ada listrik, tidak ada air, tidak ada makanan. Semuanya hidup terbatas, bahkan mungkin mereka hari ini akan makan dari apa yang ada. Mungkin itu daun atau apapun, dia sudah sampai di titik itu. Dan dunia internasional menonton ini dengan sangat memalukan, begitu ya.
Israel is doing that yesterday or two days ago. Israel sent a truck full of anonymous dead bodies, 88 corpses of Palestinian martyrs whom nobody knows how were they abducted, how were they killed, who they really are. They cut off water, they cut off electricity, etc. So we are facing actually colonial brutality.
Jadi teman-teman semua, ini harus dipahami dengan baik konflik ini agar kita tidak salah paham. Mr. Muslim, apa yang Anda lihat kondisi real, what the real condition in Gaza today after 1 year conflict, after 1 year war? I think there is no humanitarian aid can enter Gaza because there is border with Rafah and all close, alright?
Yeah.
I think like that. Can you describe us about that?
Of course, the geopolitical reality is complicated but promising. There is a real hope for the Palestinians to actually achieve their statehood and if not full freedom, at least partial freedom, and establish a state of Palestine because of the the geopolitical developments. But the humanitarian cost is very, very high, and the suffering in Gaza is tremendous. And it's also spilling over now in the West Bank. Since the start of this Israeli aggression, we have probably lost more than 41,000 Palestinian lives. And there are at least 10,000 missing Palestinians who have probably perished and died because of these American-made bombs used in Gaza. So the loss of life, the injuries in the hundreds of thousands, the displacement, almost 90% of the Palestinian people in Gaza had to relocate, go from one place to another. I have some friends in the south of Gaza who have moved place at least 10 times. Every few weeks they have to set up tent somewhere else because the Israeli military is telling them this is not a safe zone anymore, go here to the new safe zone. Then again, this is not a safe zone, move again. So the humanitarian situation is difficult, and we have witnessed in the north of Gaza one of the worst catastrophes in modern times because the Israeli military and the Israeli authorities do not respect laws of war. They treat the Palestinians as lesser humans. Now the Israeli mentality, the Israeli Zionist ideology does not see anyone as equal. They believe they are the chosen people. They believe that the Torah and other religious scriptures have given them right over the land and has provided them, a privilege that they are better than other people. So when they started the aggression on Gaza in October, we saw it very clear in the statements of Israeli ministers, including Netanyahu himself. The intent to commit genocide was very, very clear, talking about us as Amaleks. Citing history and saying that you have to, some of their scriptures, they talk about the necessity to kill men, women, children, babies and animals and even trees of the Amaleks. So we're facing a genocidal mentality. This genocidal mentality resulted in one of the worst catastrophes. People have been forced out of North Gaza. They had to become refugees or internally displaced. Many houses were destroyed. Tens of thousands of houses were destroyed. At least 300 mosques were destroyed, for instance. Now people in Gaza, if they want to go to pray in a mosque, there is a high chance that they will not find a place to pray. And comes in some Israeli restrictions on food, not only movement of people, but also food, a water supply, electric supply. They bombed the electric generators. They cut off water supply. And the fact that Israel can actually cut our water and food is very telling by itself. Because, you know, kadang-kadang sebelum perang ni, Israel kata, we are not occupying Gaza. We are only, you know, in conflict with Gaza. But this war has shown very clearly who controls food, who controls water, who controls electricity. That means you already occupy Gaza, but in a very different way. Now, the humanitarian crisis is still worsening. The closure of the Rafah crossing point made it very difficult for food and other supplies to come in. Before the war on Gaza, every day 500 to 600 trucks of goods, food and other supplies used to come into Gaza. Our nation, our people are trading actually. The Palestinians are very business friendly or entrepreneurial. That's why, in spite of the blockade on Gaza for 17 years, people were still doing business with the world, mainly through Egypt. Israel closed down this border and put a lot of restrictions and threats on Egypt, so Egypt itself had to back off. So some humanitarian supplies started to come through Jordan. Now Israel again is putting more restrictions on Jordan. Some countries tried to do some airdrop of food supplies, but unfortunately it was very limited and minimal, and it didn't even continue. So now the people of Gaza are being you know, controlled like hamsters in a cage. You know, if you have a hamster, you decide to give them today this amount of water and this amount of food and sugar. They're doing this to the people of Gaza. That's very inhumane, but Israel doesn't care because it's very emboldened by the United States. You mentioned just now how the US has been involved in this war from the beginning. Some people get confused from the audience. They think the United States is a neutral observer, a mediator, and two parties are fighting. But that's not the reality. I know very many people, because we are heavily influenced by the American culture. We watch American movies. We are speaking English right now. We eat American, at least before the war, not anymore, American junk food and so on. So people think America isn't, in the American administration isn't involved in this genocide. But that's actually very, very untrue. Since day one, the American administration, the Pentagon, the American intelligence agencies have come to save Israel. Now, for many decades, Israel was trying to portray itself as the leader of the Western, you know, establishment in the Middle East. But not anymore. After October 7, everybody now realizes that Israel relies on America for its survival. The Americans provided intelligence, you know, details to the Israelis. They helped them in carrying out strikes. I won't be surprised if the pager attack was fully coordinated with the Americans, even if their spokespersons say no, we didn't know about it. I won't be surprised if the assassination of Ismail Haniyeh was fully coordinated with the Americans. The big bombs that they drop on Gaza that wipe out entire buildings are completely American made and provided for free to the Israeli government. So this actually means that the American administration and American decision makers are liable and will face accountability one day. Maybe not now, but it will come. We still remember the Serbian war criminals being brought to justice many, many years after the end of the genocide in the Balkans. I won't be surprised if one day, especially if there is a shifting balance of power, if one day some American decision makers, and they have to really think about it, think it very through, from the State Department, from the CIA, from the Pentagon, I won't be surprised if one day these people will be brought to justice. Maybe not like Nuremberg, you know, trials, but they will definitely be brought to justice, because the international community might be, you know, it might not be that powerful, but it's not completely dead.
Oke. Teman-teman semuanya, saya ingin menjelaskan sedikit yang dijelaskan Pak Muslim tadi. Jadi kondisi sekarang real di jalur Gaza itu sangat menyedihkan ya. Ini membuktikan bahwa memang Israel ini tidak punya moral dalam berperang gitu. Even sebenarnya kita dalam berperang itu kita ada aturannya. Nggak boleh bunuh anak-anak, nggak boleh bunuh perempuan, tidak boleh bunuh orang tua, tidak boleh membakar pohon, nggak boleh membakar tempat ibadah dan sebagainya. Tapi semua ini dilanggar oleh Israel. Dia memotong saluran listrik, dia memotong saluran air, dia suplai airnya di-cut, kemudian bantuan kemanusiaan juga di-cut. Jadi sekarang itu Gaza itu hampir orang semuanya kelaparan ya. Jadi extreme starvation ya di Gaza itu, karena Israel ini memang pada dasarnya dia itu punya pemikiran yang berasal dari filsafat orang Israel itu sendiri. Dia ingin orang lain tuh dimusnahkan di Palestina itu, dan dialah sebagai bangsa yang bagus, bangsa nomor satu gitu. Orang lain tuh tidak ada, apalagi Muslim ya. Makanya dia nggak punya beban membunuh orang itu, karena bagi dia adalah bangsa terbaik. Ini berasal dari filsafat Darwinian culture ya. Jadi Barat itu, Amerika, Eropa, termasuk Israel itu dia punya cara berpikir Darwinian culture, psikopat. Jadi orang lain itu adalah berhak dibunuh, berhak dihabisi, sedangkan bangsa dia adalah the best in the world gitu. Itu masalah utama dari cara berpikir orang Amerika, orang Eropa, dan termasuk orang Israel ketika dia berhadapan dengan Palestina. Sekarang itu tidak ada tenda pengungsian, dibiarkan dingin, kehujanan, kepanasan, tuh nggak ada tenda, nggak boleh bawa terpal, nggak boleh masuk plastik. Ini sampai ke titik itu Israel itu melakukan genosida terhadap bangsa Palestina. Kalaupun ada peperangan antara Israel dan Hamas katakan, maka sebenarnya rule of law dalam perang ini juga harus diikuti oleh Israel. Jadi kondisi real di Gaza sekarang itu tidak ada listrik, tidak ada air, tidak ada makanan, semuanya hidup terbatas, bahkan mungkin mereka hari ini akan makan dari apa yang ada, mungkin itu daun atau apapun, dia sudah sampai di titik itu, dan dunia internasional menonton ini dengan sangat memalukan begitu ya. Dan tidak ada yang bergerak begitu. Bahkan negara-negara Arab misalkan tidak ada yang benar-benar mau membantu Palestina ya puluhan tahun. Kenapa? Mungkin salah satunya mereka punya memori di masa lalu berperang dengan Israel itu kalah begitu. Yom Kippur kalah, 56 kalah, 73 kalah, 67 kalah. Jadi mungkin ada memori kalah ini. Jadi Arab ini takut berperang dengan Israel. Ditambah lagi memang ada demoralisasi ya dari pemimpin Arab ini yang semakin takut mati dan semakin menjauhi yang namanya jihad, menjauhi yang namanya berperang dengan Zionis ya. Ingat sekali lagi, kita tidak berperang dengan Yahudi karena Islam melarang kita berperang dengan Yahudi. Kita berperang dengan Zionisme internasional yang hari ini mendirikan rezim namanya Israel dengan segala cara dan dengan cara melakukan genosida terhadap etnis Palestina ya. Itu yang poin utama yang harus kita pahami, bahwa di Palestina itu tidak ada hukum internasional yang dihormati sama sekali. Resolusi PBB itu cukup banyak dilanggar terus sama Israel, nggak ada satupun yang ditaati oleh dia. Bahkan dia 2-3 hari yang lalu dia menyebut bahwa PBB itu sirkus, UN United Nations General Assembly itu dia bilang sirkus, kemudian dia tidak percaya sama PBB dan sebagainya. Tapi ketika ada diplomat Yordania mengatakan, kalau you nggak percaya kenapa nggak you keluar dari United Nations, dia nggak bisa jawab itu. Jadi dia menutup muka, menutup aib-aibnya itu dengan cara menyerang balik orang, padahal semua kejahatan itu dilakukan Israel berdekade-dekade yang lalu ya. Teman-teman semuanya yang mendengar Gelora TV, saya ingin sekali lagi menjelaskan bahwa ini bukan perang agama semata, ini bukan perang Yahudi dengan Muslim, ini perang Zionisme dengan rakyat Palestina yang notabene adalah Muslim. Ya, ada pembersihan etnis yang ingin dilakukan. Sayangnya memang kita belum belum terlalu maksimal, dan mudah-mudahan ke depan kita bisa lebih maksimal di Indonesia. Konflik ini konflik panjang karena memang Israel tidak akan pernah berhenti membantai rakyat Palestina sampai rakyat Palestina itu nanti sisanya sedikit. dan dia bisa bebas leluasa mendirikan sebuah rezim yang bernama rezim Israel Raya ya, sesuai dengan peta baru yang dibawa oleh Netanyahu. Netanyahu ini membawa peta baru sekarang bagi Palestina. Dia termasuk sudah mengatakan akan mencaplok West Bank. Mencaplok West Bank setelah jalur Gaza di blokade dengan dengan pagar yang sangat tinggi. Kalau nggak diblokade ini dan pejuang Hamas itu bisa bebas bergerak, ini lain ceritanya. Mungkin Israel sekarang sudah menghadapi masalah besar. Ini karena diblokade dengan tembok besar, orang nggak bisa lewat begitu. Ini pengecut ya, cuman mau melakukan serangan udara, bunuh anak-anak, bunuh perempuan, bunuh kakek-kakek, bakar masjid, bakar sekolah. Tapi dia mengurung orang agar orang tidak bisa melawan begitu. Ini kan bukan mental bukan mental gentleman dalam peperangan sekalipun ya. Israel memperlihatkan kepengecutannya dan dia terus mempertontonkan genosida. Sayangnya dunia internasional hanya menonton dan Arab juga termasuk yang banyak menonton. Di antara banyak juga yang membantu, kita bersyukur masih ada. Dan teman-teman masyarakat Indonesia supportnya sangat strong kepada Palestina. Kita terus akan berjuang agar tanah ini tidak diambil oleh Zionis ya, bukan oleh Yahudi tapi oleh Zionis yang yang berasal dari filsafat Barat tadi saya katakan Darwin. Jadi
if I may add a little bit on this,
silakan.
I totally agree with you.
Yeah.
We are actually facing in Palestine an extension of the colonial mentality and the colonial era. And not many nations are still colonized, but we are still colonized. And what we see from the Israeli behavior and attitude is, the full spectrum of colonial policies. So the things that you faced here in Indonesia, we are facing in Palestine. Maybe many years after your independence, we are still facing it. So I can say that Israel is the legitimate or illegitimate son of Western colonial brutality. For instance, the Nazis experimented on, and the Japanese as well, experimented on prisoners. They committed atrocities, rape, torture in prison. Israel is doing all of that right now. The Nazis and the Japanese occupation had full disregard for sanctity of human life. They would torture the prisoners and the communities under their control. They would just throw the bodies. Israel is doing that yesterday or 2 days ago. Israel sent a truck full of anonymous dead bodies, 88 corpses of Palestinian martyrs whom nobody knows how were they abducted, how were they killed, who they really are. They cut off water, they cut off electricity, etc. So we are facing actually colonial brutality in full force. Now, this stems from the ideology of the Zionists, from Zionism itself. The problem is the ideology. If you have a quick survey of the Zionist literature, for instance, read Netanyahu's book published in the 1990s, A Place Among Nations or A Place Under the Sun, you won't really see a difference from the tone of Mein Kampf of Hitler. Yeah. The same logic. Power is great. We do this because we are powerful. We are better than others, so we are civilized. Others are barbarians, etc. Look at a more liberal Zionist writer, Yuval Noah Harari, who I think many people know. We have read *Sapiens*, we've read *Homo Deus* and some of his works. This is the liberal one. And he's been silent for a while because I believe he doesn't want to lose audience, and he still wants to sell books. He glorifies power. Even this so-called liberal glorifies power. And although he talks about occupation and expansion in a negative tone in other regions, but when it comes to Palestine and Palestinians, we see him keep silent. So the problem is actually the ideology. It's a very brutal ideology. It's a descendant of the colonial ideology. The other aspect that you also touched on is propaganda. There is this interesting term brought about by George Orwell, the British novelist, in his novel 1984, Newspeak. The language that they use to make right wrong and wrong right.
Right. Yeah.
Who is the good side and who is the bad side? Netanyahu keeps actually using this kind of propaganda in his speeches. We are always painted as the barbarians, and Israel is always painted as an extension of the civilized Western civilization. But in reality, that's very, very untrue. Nothing can be more untrue than this. Israel is committing atrocities, and together with the Americans, they are covering up all of these atrocities by playing with words. So a Palestinian freedom fighter becomes a terrorist, but an Israeli terrorist who drops a bomb, several tons bomb that wipes out an entire neighborhood, is a uniformed captain in the Israeli defense, the IDF, the so-called IDF. So there's a lot of propaganda in place, and I think our friends all over the world have to be very, very alert of that, because sometimes when you see the comments on social media, you feel some are still deceived by, especially the American propaganda. I think one way of one of the results of this war is actually the exposure of this propaganda. When we see hundreds of thousands of Americans protesting against the genocide in Gaza, tens of thousands of students doing encampments in the United States itself, this by itself is actually a show that things are changing. People are waking up and realizing that this newspeak used to deceive them isn't working anymore.
Ya, jadi sebelum saya tutup, saya ingin highlight dulu apa yang dibilang Dr. Muslim tadi, sekaligus saya nambahin ya, bahwa memang persoalan intinya karena memang yang tadi saya sebutkan ada persoalan ideologi bagi Israel itu bahwa dia terbaik dan orang lain tidak baik ya. Selain Israel itu halal dibunuh gitu ya. Kalau yang Israel itu, makanya Netanyahu selalu bilang we will hurt whoever harm us gitu dia bilang. Padahal dia di situ datang sebagai penjajah, sebagai pencaplok dan sebagai perampok gitu ya. Jadi sekarang itu berapa ton bom yang sudah dijatuhkan Israel di jalur Gaza hanya dalam 1 tahun ini? Kurang 80.000 ton bom.
I think more than Hiroshima and Nagasaki combined.
3 times or 4 times more than Nagasaki and Hiroshima gitu ya. Jadi kita lihat bagaimana moral mereka. Ini bukan peperangan sebenarnya, ini adalah pembumi hangusan, ini adalah pembinasaan satu suku, satu etnis. Oleh karena itu, bayangkan ini bukan isu agama, tapi isu kemanusiaan. Oleh karena itu banyak sekali negara Afrika misalkan terus saja menyampaikan proposal ke International Court and Justice. Dia tidak berhenti, dia terus memberikan bukti-bukti baru pada ICC dan ICJ agar ini genosida ini bisa dihentikan. Karena memang yang dilakukan Israel ini udah barbar. Bukan hanya Muslim, tapi non-Muslim juga banyak yang mensupport Palestina. Di Indonesia, posisi kita sangat clear. It's based on our constitution. Yang nggak ada yang bisa melawan konstitusi kecuali orang yang tidak mengakui negara Indonesia. Indonesia ini strong support kepada Palestina based on constitution. Ditambah lagi memang kita mayoritas di sini Muslim. Isu ini sudah menjadi isu kemanusiaan karena bagaimana kalau anak Anda dibunuh? Bagaimana kalau tetangga Anda dibunuh? Bagaimana kalau rumah Anda dihancurkan? Bagaimana kalau tanah Anda diambil? Bagaimana kalau Israel didirikan di Inggris? Bagaimana Israel didirikan di Thailand? Bagaimana kalau Israel itu didirikan di Singapura atau di Malaysia? Pasti semua akan bangkit melawan. Jadi nggak mungkin orang Palestina itu akan diam, apalagi hanya karena dia kuat didukung Amerika dan sebagainya. Ini adalah kewajiban bagi seorang warga negara untuk membela negaranya. Bagaimana kalau Israel di Indonesia? Pasti kita juga nggak akan membiarkan Israel ambil Kalimantan, Israel duduk di Sulawesi, Israel duduk di Sumatera, Israel ada di Aceh, pasti diperangi oleh masyarakat. Jadi teman-teman semuanya, di session pertama ini kita sudahi. Mungkin mudah-mudahan bisa memberikan penonton banyak informasi dan banyak update terbaru langsung dari Gaza, bagaimana kondisinya sekarang di usia konflik yang sudah mendekati setahun, hanya hitungan hari ya. Thank you Mr. Muslim. I'm very delighted to talk to you today, and we will discuss more in another
Inshallah.
occasion, another chance.
Thank you very much, and I wish you the best, and I wish the audience here in Indonesia the best. We always have very high expectations on the Indonesian people and Indonesian leadership.
Yeah.
So I wish them the best, and I would like to see Indonesia take a very leading role in advancing the Palestinian struggle, inshallah.
Ya, insya Allah. Terima kasih banyak teman-teman semuanya. Sampai jumpa lagi. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.